During our flights, planes as we know it all seem fairly similar. Same shape, same size, same parts, which should be expected, right? Well, that's what we thought. Some of the airplanes seen in this video are so different from your usual airplane that just by looking at them, you'll wonder if these planes can even get off the ground. The Bartini Beriev. It's a boat. It's a plane! Wait, it's both! This two-part aircraft was created by the Soviet Union in the 1900s around the time of the Cold War and was used as a defense against US submarines. Its job was to skim the surface of the waters and keep an eye on any underwater targets that may cause a threat. The plane had its first takeoff in 1972, but this was before it had its pontoons, which allowed it to hover on water. Those were added in 1974. Once they were installed, the aircraft did experience a few problems and they had to make a few changes. Lastly, the vehicle was equipped with two turbojet engines that helped the vehicle lift off. During its time, two models were created, but eventually the project was scrapped. The aircraft remains at the Air Force Museum in Monyno near Moscow. Pillar X-18, the aircraft with tilted wings. Being another plane concept created in the World War II days, the military had some ideas and saw some value in having a plane that could tilt its wings to either a horizontal or a vertical angle. Wanting to test their theories, they began working on this concept around 1955. In order to save time and money, they decided to create this using parts and pieces from other planes. Seeming like this was an awesome idea at the time, they were then hit with the reality that this plane isn't really everything they had hoped for. When testing began in 1959, the plane indeed was able to leave the ground, but suffered other problems along the way. These problems include, but are not limited to, suffering imbalance due to wind gusts when the wings rotate, underwhelming throttle power, and a complete reliance on the engine. If the engine were to lose power or go out at any time during flight, landing would be close to impossible and the plane would surely crash. After much trial and error, the unique plane went on its final flight in 1961. The team was presented with a new problem of propeller pitch control, which caused the plane to spin out of control during flight. Luckily, the pilot was able to regain control and land. But this failure was convincing enough for the designers to put this plane aside for good, as it was deemed too dangerous to fly. Although the team did continue to research the concept in further years, they decided to stick to their gut and scrap the X-18 in January 1964. The Super Guppy plane. The Super Guppy, created by the Aerospace Lines, is a large cargo aircraft that was used back in the late 1960s to 80s to carry other components. It's the successor of the previous aircraft built in its place, the Pregnant Guppy. This huge plane was constructed using the main body of a C-97J turbo stratocruiser, which gives it its large size. And with it being so large, it needs an engine that can really pack a punch. That engine is an engine that comes from the Pratt & Whitney T34P7WA turboprop, which is strong enough to carry a load of 54,000 pounds and reach speeds of up to 300 miles per hour. The Super Guppy plane came in different variations, but was mainly used in the 1900s to transport airplane parts, and it was able to complete that task with little to no issue. However, we all know that saying, there's always a bigger fish out there somewhere. In those times, the Super Guppy was eventually replaced by the Airbus Beluga, which was a plane capable of carrying twice as much weight as the Guppy. Once that happened, most of the Guppy aircrafts were sent to be on display at multiple different museums or airports. Vought Aircraft V-173. Sometime around World War II, the United States Navy created this experimental fighter aircraft. Once created, it was given the title Vought Aircraft V-173, but most know it as the Flying Pancake because of its flat saucer-like design. The aircraft was designed by Charles H. Zimmerman, who theorized that the aircraft could fly despite its design with the expense of its speed. In order to combat this, Charles felt it would help if he placed large propellers near the end of its wingtips. During its first trials, it showed a rather unusual flight pattern, but overall, Charles the designer was able to prove that the flying Pancake could fly fairly well. During its time in the skies, many of its spectators believed it was some sort of UFO. Nope, just a flying Pancake. The aircraft was brought back to life by the Vought Aircraft Heritage Foundation in 2012 and can be seen on display at nearby museums. Douglas X3 Stiletto. The Douglas X3 Stiletto was built back in the 1950s as an experimental jet aircraft created by the Douglas Aircraft Company. They initially had the mission to explore aircraft designs to see which design could be the most capable of reaching the highest speed. During its creation, they were aiming to reach a speed of up to 2,000 miles per hour. But if we told you they were successful, our noses might as well grow as long as this aircraft's. When put to the test back in 1952, it was just short of hitting Mach 1, which converts to around 760 miles per hour. Unsure of what was holding it back, the team made adjustments and ran more tests over the next couple of years. But during that time, the fastest speed the X3 was ever able to achieve was only around Mach 1.2, or about 920 miles per hour. Although this aircraft was never able to reach its goal of Mach 2, the plane provided very valuable data for future use and was one of the very first planes to ever use titanium. The plane had its final flight around May 1956 and retired to be seen on display at the National Museum of the United States Air Force.